let's go ahead and talk about the Helium Foundation and the Decentralized Wireless Alliance, DEWI. I'm going to say DEWI, is expanding and uniting the community under a shared brand as the Helium Foundation. The Helium Network launched in 2019 with the purpose of building a decentralized wireless network owned and operated by a community of users. In just over 2 years since the network's launch, this community has built a global, people-powered, decentralized network with more than 680K hotspots across 163 countries. The time has come for us to unite the community under a shared brand, and that is why we are proud to announce that the Decentralized Wireless Alliance will operate under a new name, the Helium Foundation. The Helium Foundation, a 501c nonprofit. Oh man, these foundations are so sneaky, and like this is the same kind of thing Ethereum does. And I don't know that I really support this kind of structure within cryptocurrency and the way they do this, but they're saying it will significantly expand its existing stewardship role, while Helium Incorporated announced their new name, Nova Labs. So what you have is the Helium Foundation being spun up as a nonprofit, the incorporation of Helium that is essentially going to be the profitable portion is now changing their name to Nova Labs. And that's obviously, it says, to distinguish itself as a contributor to the Helium Network. This new chapter brings with it several exciting changes geared towards putting the Helium community front and center. First, Helium Incorporated, hereafter Nova Labs, has transferred its brand assets and intellectual property to the Helium Foundation. So it's transferring from a profit-driven company to a non-profit. These assets will be held under the foundation's stewardship for the benefit of the global community. This is a tremendous win for the community and all projects building in and around the Helium ecosystem. This allows the Helium name and brand to be used more openly under the umbrella of a nonprofit association benefiting the wireless industry, thus our new name. The Nova Labs team will continue as highly devoted and aligned community members. As founders of the network, they remain focused on critical network infrastructure and blockchain development work. They will still be responsible for ongoing work with proof of coverage, light hotspots, and developments related to the most recent HIPs that have been published in the community. In the near term, Nova Labs will collaborate with the foundation to share Helium news, partner announcements, and other educational content through social and community channels. Really, in my humble opinion, everything that's been going on with the HIPs in Helium has been sketch. I think that is one of the largest dangers of, and this is a little different because it's proof of coverage, but replace proof of coverage with proof of work and then add the proof of stake portion. And if you're kind of like a competing governance model where you essentially have proof of work and proof of stake, or in this case, proof of coverage and proof of stake, when it comes down to governance and the shifting of the monetary policies like we've seen in Helium, unfortunately, what ends up happening is it does seem to lean in favor of the proof of stake or the stakers. I do have these worries as well, similar worries when we talk about projects like Flux, for example, because what you end up having, especially as people are staking, is that they're kind of just continue to accumulate. And because they continue to accumulate and usually lock that up, in those kind of governance models, it leans towards the stakers. And then the hardware providers that have to cover costs and so on, well, they're at least going to be selling to cover, obviously their proof of coverage operation, their infrastructure. And it feels like a battle between between two classes. And as I always see it, especially when we're talking about proof of work versus proof of stake, I always see it like the working class versus the managerial class, right? And that's because just by nature, providing infrastructure requires skill, right? And it seems like in society lately, everything that requires skill is kind of like tossed to the side. It's not respected anymore. And that goes across pretty much all industry and all of society internationally. And I wish that wasn't the case, right? And it's something that I've been noticing more and more. And obviously this is written in favor of it, but I'm reading a lot of things that I don't agree with necessarily, especially when we start talking about forming the nonprofits and so on and kind of playing these games. Second, the core technology and its repositories, including the Helium blockchain miner and hotspot app source code, will shift to be maintained by the foundation. The core contributors at Nova Labs will continue to ensure progress marches on through this transition and will still be responsible for technical continuity and working to implement any code or chain variable changes that result from approved HIPs. HIPs are Helium improvement proposals, basically, just so you guys know. I didn't clarify that earlier. Think of it as EIPs for Ethereum improvement proposals. It's the same thing. Or BIPs, Bitcoin improvement proposals. To date, the issuance of chain variables and rescue blocks has been a collaborative effort between the foundation and the core contributors, with the latter as the sole signer. This process will shift to include dual signing with representation from both Helium Foundation and Nova Labs. In time, additional organizations and individuals will become eligible signers with the demonstration of long-term network alignment and sufficient contributions to the Helium blockchain core code base. In preparation for this transition, the foundation team has been growing over the last few months and will continue to expand its technical and community leadership. Joey Hiller, a 2021 grant recipient and familiar face in the community, came on board in Q4 and is being elevated to technical director. Clarissa Redwine brings a background in connected hardware and joined us to grow our grant program. Evan Dywald, who has himself a grant recipient, shifted to full-time as the foundation's first data engineer and is focusing on proof of coverage, POC security, network analytics, and improving our public analytics tool. We're also thrilled to have recently welcomed Ada Akturk, who is splitting her time between community and developer relations. With the expanding team and increasing responsibility, the foundation's board of directors has asked me to step into Chief Operating Officer's role as we continue to grow the team. The Helium Foundation is taking on more responsibilities to scale, improve, and secure the Helium network. We are adding resources to improve public tools such as the ETL, and will run an instance of the LoRaWAN console service targeted at non-commercial and trial use. Network governance will also see changes. Oh, all right. What are the changes in the upcoming months? I guess they aren't going to talk about what those are going to be. In addition to the foundation's role overseeing the HIP process and hosting monthly community calls, we'll establish new independent committees, similar to the existing Manufacturing Oversight Committee, MOC, to promote specialization and ensure stakeholder alignment. Of course, that's what they really care about. Clearly, also with the HIPs that have been proposed, by the way, too. Look out for another blog post in the near future detailing those initiatives. We're also continuing to push towards a more formalized governance model and have plans to open up foundation board seats for general elections later this year. Each of these are important milestones to ensure Helium Network remains incredibly neutral. This is a very exciting time for the Helium Network. The grant program continues to attract new teams and exciting projects, including an additional Explorer, wrapped Helium as an ERC20, and enabling multi-sig and further network analysis and more. The Helium Foundation funded $500,000 worth of grants in 2021, and we've already matched that amount in just the first few months of this year. We're building relationships with influential groups in Washington to showcase the utility of the Helium network and drive public sector interest. There's even more reason to be excited about the network's future, given the growing demand side. Leading the LoRaWAN network, providers have publicly announced roaming agreements. A major U.S. city is employing Helium for civic benefits, with hints of more to come. And 2 large cellular networks have announced their intention to roam onto Helium as 5G. A lot has transpired in the last year, but we're just getting warmed up, and there's a lot more excitement to come. There you go. There is some FAQ here, like what's the purpose of a separate foundation? And they say that Helium is a public blockchain, meaning is permissionless and decentralized in nature. All nodes have equal rights to access, create, and validate data. The Helium Foundation exists to manage the blockchain as an open public utility, which means that the nonprofit elements of the network. So, I mean, that makes sense, and I understand. It's just whenever you start seeing these shifts between, like, a for-profit into a non-profit, you start asking questions about, what are the tax ramifications of that? How's the board going to handle this? Obviously, because now they have a board. What is it all about? I always have questions surrounding a lot of nonprofits when it comes to that, and it makes me a little nervous, but I understand, I guess, the concept behind it, and I understand the selling point, right? It does talk about its roles. The big points is that the role of the Helium Foundation is network governance, oversight, ecosystem development, education, and advocacy. So what we are going to want to pay attention to is the evolving governance, and changes are coming in the HIP process that will create more efficiency and clarity. Pay attention to what they're going to be changing here for that process, because that's going to be important. And I think the rest of it is going to be, not as much worrisome, at least in my opinion. So there you go. There's all the changes going on with the Helium Network. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below or the live chat. I hope you enjoyed this clip from the Crypto Mining Morning Show every Monday through Friday, 7:45 a.m. Pacific and 10:45 a.m. Eastern Time. You can check out more clips here, or if you're interested in checking out the entire live show, you can check that out down here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next Tuesday.